Hi everyone. Today on I Think I Can Be Happier, we're talking with Nick Kellar, real estate consultant and mentor.
Yes, I'm so excited about this conversation. Yes. I got connected with Nick through another executive function coach. Her name is Heidi Shoemaker. And after hearing about how he approaches learning and life, we knew that he would be so perfect for the show because he's basically like a walking, breathing version, a human version of our tagline, yes. Right? He's a person in progress who is actively learning from stories and science. So he's so good. And before we bring him on, can you please help us out by giving us a rating, 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple or wherever else you listen? It helps us out a lot.
Good morning, Nick. Welcome. Welcome to I Think I Can Be Happier. We are so excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, thank you ladies for having me. I'm honored to be here with you guys.
Nick, can you just introduce yourself briefly? Just give us a quick sense of who you are, the work that you do.
I'll start personally. I'll be 47 in August. I'm a husband, girl dad, dog dad. I've been a real estate entrepreneur for the last 23 years. I live in a suburb outside of Baltimore. I've been here for the last 20-ish years. Been an Army brat before that. I'm pretty active in our community. I'm on our board with our local hospital, 2 other committees with the hospital. So I'm passionate about that organization. And then actually on my shirt today, I'm a board member with the Hoffa Foundation, which was started by one of my best friends, Tom, when his brother passed from an overdose. And we help the community raise awareness, help support those in recovery, try to break the stigma around recovery and addiction.
Wow.
Great.
I'm already inspired.
I know, Nick, I'm just thinking, how do you have the time to do all of that? That's all I can think of. It's amazing.
Yeah, it gets to be a lot sometimes, but I make it work. I mean, it comes down to knowing your priorities and then time blocking. I'm big into time blocking. A lot of people call it time management. I don't know that I believe I guess it's semantics, but I don't believe in time management. It's just 3 o'clock's happening whether you do something or not. So I call it priority management. So I'm very big of knowing what I need to do that particular day and then doing it and then living off my calendar. If you took my calendar away from me, I'd be like a chicken with my head cut off.
Yeah, I need the calendar and the planner.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Exactly. I live off that.
Yeah. I love that reframe of priority management because it reminds me of how we've talked, Amy, I know we've talked before about the difference between a routine and a schedule. And it's kind of like similar to that, like a schedule. Time management kind of implies more rigidity, and then a routine or priority management, it allows for more flexibility and more prioritizing.
And also just thinking about what you can control, out of that, because Nick, as you said, 3 p.m. is going to happen whether or not you are managing what you need to manage.
I think everybody wants to be intentional with their time, but the only way I really know to do that is that you're planning for it, that you're going out of your way to be purposeful about it. For me, that's a calendar. It might be different for somebody else. The calendar isn't the only way to skin that cat. But for me, it's what's worked, is knowing what I need to do that particular day for it to be a winning day, blocking it into time, and then all I got to do is just do it. And it becomes easy. I take the thinking out of it. I don't need to think as my day goes. I'm not being reactive. I know what needs to be done.
Someone might hear that and think, oh, well, he's lucky because he's doing things that he likes. But I think what people might not see is the time and effort I'm sure you have put into making sure that you are spending time doing things that you want to do, that are priorities for you and that you are personally interested in. And you probably have said no to some things so that you can create space in your calendar for things that you want to do, which makes it then sort of easier to do those things. That priority work, I know you do a lot of that. You must do a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to values and knowing what the impact you want to make and what your values are. Make it easier, because that's the filter to which I put things through and then decide whether I want to say no to it or not. Fun fact, I almost never say no, so I'm an easy yes when it comes to asking me to do stuff. But it's funny that you brought that up, because I just read something recently which was an awesome little perspective, and I'll share it with you guys just because you'd mentioned it. But no is declining a future obligation, a future commitment. Subtraction creates space, and both are needed. So no kind of where you are on that spectrum, whether it's a new commitment ask or if it's something you want to say yes to, and maybe there's something that's not of importance to you anymore, or doesn't carry the same weight anymore, that you could subtract so that you could then add what you want to commit to.
I'm so glad that you say yes, Nick, because that's what brought you here today. So we're very grateful.
Yeah.
So our podcast is called I Think I Can Be Happier. What was your relationship with happiness like earlier in your life, your career?
Like most young men, like most young adults, I would say it was very much hinged on outcomes and stuff. It was a chase. And there was a lot of mental and emotional turmoil that came along with it, because everything that I was told as a young adult, not necessarily verbatim, but just with what you would see, is build, 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 build. Build your family, build your wealth, build your investments, build your business. So my relationship with it was very much that, and along with it comes the stress of keeping up, the emotional toll of trying to keep up. A lot of looking out the window and seeing what other people were doing, and then measuring my worth on where I was against other people. So not a very healthy relationship, I would say, but it was learned. Like that's a learned thing. So that's just, I think, where a lot of young people get started is that comparison, that looking out the window to see what everybody else is doing, and then measuring your happiness based on where you might be.
And, as in your mid-40s, we did not have the social media window to look out of when we were younger. That came along later. So, kids these days, I sound like an old lady, but there's like that comparison is in your face, whether you want to look for it or not. And so that message now, I imagine, is quite a bit stronger, because there's always, like, the Joneses is in your phone. Before it was literally just like out the window, right, or what your friends were doing, what your friends' parents were doing. But now it's like, oh, this person I don't even know. How can I even compete with them?
Yeah.
I have to try harder. I have to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I the metaphor I use is windows and mirrors. I think a lot of people prepare their day, prepare their life looking out the window, instead of preparing their life, their day, looking in the mirror and what they can do better.
Love that. So, Nick, I would love for our listeners to hear just your personal philosophy on happiness, if you can tell us a little bit about that.
In its most simplistic form, I believe that happiness is in progress. That's as simple as I can put it. And so I find happiness in just making progress in different areas of my life. I've developed the skill of being able to identify what they are and then just do them. And it's not to say that I don't get the noise and the distractions that everyone else gets. I just know what I need to get done to make progress in different, and even if it's a small progress, it doesn't need to be a big win every single day. I think that's another mistake people make, is they need to swing for the fences every day, and that's not true. Patience and success compounds in the small actions, and I just look for small wins each day. And then I do them. And when I put my head on the pillow, I find myself feeling pretty good about what my day was. And I know that if I could do that and compound those days, those winning days, even if it's just small wins day after day, over time, I'm like, man, not only am I accomplishing things, but I feel pretty fulfilled, pretty happy.
Was there a moment in your life, like how did you, because you used to not feel that way and now you do. So how did that happen? Was there a moment that made it happen, or was it a gradual thing?
That's a great question. A couple things. One of them was I became an avid reader. I committed myself to be a learner. And along with that, your perspective starts to change. It starts to widen, it starts to deepen. You start to realize you don't know everything, and even when you do know stuff, it's okay to say that that's wrong, that's falsifiable. I could add to my perspective. So I'd say being committed to a learner is one of the, and that would be my recommendation for anyone, is if you're not a reader, start, commit yourself to learning. The other one I would say is probably in that 2010 to 2013, 2014 time period where my mom was sick and she eventually passed in 2014. It was an eye opener. It wasn't in the script. It was a punch to the gut. And a quick story on that is, so she had dementia. It was a Lewy body dementia, which is a form, it's a protein deficiency. So I was in my early 30s and we had just had our first daughter when she became sick. And that was her first granddaughter, and my mom loved kids. So we were really excited as a family that they were going to have their first grandchild, and that obviously wasn't in the cards for her to get sick. She passed when we had our second daughter a year after, so she was a year old. My oldest was 4. But on her last day, I had written her a letter, and it was chaos because we knew the end was coming. And my dad was getting my sister from the airport. My wife she's a teacher, was getting out of school. So for a couple hours, it was just me alone with my mom, who was basically just breathing heavy, and she was dying. And I was losing it. And I'd written her this letter, and I printed this letter out, and I'm reading it to her, and I read it to her again a second time. And the hospice nurses are coming in and out, and they're crying, and that's making me cry more. And one of them comes in, she's like, "Do you want to see a priest?" And I wasn't raised with religion. That's changing now for me, which is a growth part of my life, side note. But I really wasn't raised with it, so it had not had the importance that it's having now. But I was like, yeah, I do. I wanted somebody. And this guy came in, I didn't really know him from Adam. And he embraced me. I lost it on his shoulder, and he sits me down and he kind of smiles at me, and which I thought at the moment was pretty odd. My mom's dying and I'm sobbing my eyes out. And he asked me, he's like, which I'll never forget this conversation. What's on your mind, son? And I just, what a lot of people that see a loved one pass away say is a lot of guilt, a lot of regret. And he ended up shortening the story a little bit, but he goes on to, in my most vulnerable moment, gives me one of the more transformational moments of my life. And it's funny how those things go hand in hand if you're looking for it and you're open-minded to it. And I'm just looking for anything to hold on to, and he gave it to me. And he said, we have these beautiful minds. It's what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom. And we do awful things with it to each other, documented in the news every day, and to ourselves. And he said, we spend our entire lives living either in the past where there's all this regret and guilt about something that's already happened, or in the future where there's all this fear and anxiety about something that hasn't happened yet, might not even happen, and usually doesn't happen as bad as we're making it out to in our head. And all the while we're jumping from one foot to the next, we miss out on the only thing that matters right now, present moment. And he said, and I'm not trying to tell you not to look to the future and set goals and look to the past and learn. I'm just saying redirect your energy quickly to what's in front of you. And he goes, and it doesn't matter if it's playing with your kids or a conversation with somebody on the bus. That's the most important moment. That's where you're supposed to be at that moment. Be in that moment. And I remember losing it again. Man, it almost got me again.
Yeah, you got me.
It's giving me goosebumps. Telling that story always gives me goosebumps. Gets me. And I swore at that moment that, a couple things. I realized in that moment that my mom she wasn't a world beater. She wasn't a CEO of a company. She didn't lead people. She led her family. But she was always where her feet were. And this all came like that moment. And if it was important to you, it was important to her. And I was like, that's it. That's it. And this man, who I barely knew, didn't know, gave me that gift. She gave me that gift. And that made it heroic. And that's why that moment changed everything for me in moving forward and how I invested my time and energy. And it was really always going to be about the moment and where my feet are. And I was just going to pursue moments and build moments. And I actually tell new dads, your job now is moment maker. do that day in, day out, and you're going to live a very fulfilled parenthood life. And sorry, I kind of lost track of the question, but that was another moment for me where things change. So
Amy and I were saying before we started recording this podcast back in earlier this year that we predicted that we were probably going to cry. That was beautiful, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. It was, it's funny how grief can serve as a moment for that. And I almost feel like you need to have vulnerability in order to hear the messages we need to hear. Andrew Garfield, he was on one of the late night talk shows. Do you know Andrew Garfield was
I love him.
Great actor. He lost his mom, and he was really close with his mom. And the talk show host asked them they were talking about his mom, and he said something beautiful about grief that also gave me another perspective about it. Is that when he thinks of grief and he's grieving or he thinks about his mom, instead of trying to suppress grief, because that's what we naturally try to do because we don't want to feel bad, he welcomes it because grief is unexpressed love. And it gives him an opportunity to feel those feelings again. And he loves that. And that was just such great perspective because I stopped running away from things that I'm scared of, like grief. And I mean, this wasn't a topic about grief, but it does kind of go into happiness, I think, because, part of I feel happiness is emotional control, and this is part of it, right? Grief is the price to pay. That's the price of admission of loving someone, right? Or loving something. Yeah. So what's the alternative to not having grief? Not love someone? Not love a dog? Yeah. No, that's the price to get in. The harder it hurts, the harder you loved, and that's something to be proud of. And that's something that I always remember too. Is it hurts, but man, that means we loved hard, and that's something to be proud of.
I just want to sob right now.
I know. Oh my gosh.
You needed tissues. I think it's important to talk about those things because it does serve as a backbone of building that perspective.
Yeah,
really
it can't be happy-go-lucky all the time.
Right.
You need to go through these things to help build emotional stability and emotional control.
So can we go back a little bit? I mean, I feel like we're going from this really deep, heavy thing to talking about something a little bit lighter. But can we go back to the idea of small wins? Something that Amy and I experience a lot in coaching is we help our clients find these small wins because that can be really difficult for people. It can be really difficult for parents to see it in their kids. It can be really difficult for us to see it in ourselves. So how did you learn how to find them? And also, what do you define as a small win?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, actually, let me start with how I define them. There's a book called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. And that was actually one of the first books I've read. We're probably going back to 2012. And it's a great book, but it's a book written on executing, specifically in a business environment. And in there, it talks about how to create a system to execute and identifying what the lead indicators are for whatever it is you're trying to build and execute on. And lead indicators specifically are defined as yeses to 2 questions. You have 100% control over the action. It's not conditioned on someone or something else, right? If I'm a farmer and I want to grow crops, sunshine is not a lead indicator for crops because you don't have control over it, right? And the second one is it directly impacts the outcome. Now, sometimes the first one's a little easier to say yes or no to. Sometimes the second one takes a little bit of digging. Does it directly impact the outcome? So those 2 things that I read in that book, it stayed with me. And so that's just an executing in business strategies and tactics. But why would it be any different for any part of life? So I adopted it to everything that I do in life. Cool. And identifying what those small wins are in each area of my life has to be yes to those 2 things. Do I have 100% control over it? And does it directly impact the outcome? Case in point, I always do my wins for the next day, the night before, because that way I program my mind. This is what will make tomorrow great. And I go to bed with that, which gets me excited, right?
Cool.
How you go to bed is how you wake up. So identifying Friday, today, we're shooting this, what my wins were today, I knew I was doing this podcast with you guys. I'm excited about doing this podcast, but it's not a win for me today. It wasn't necessary for today to be a great day. You know why? Because I didn't have 100% control over it, because you guys could have potentially canceled, right? Yeah. For whatever the reason might have been. But if I identify that as that needs to happen in order for me to have a winning day, and you guys have to cancel for some reason, guess who's holding a loss? The L, me, right? It can't be conditioned on something or someone else. So that really kind of boils it down to, what do I have control over?
That's really cool.
Right? And so that was just one instance. So that's how I identify what a win is going to be. Is, do I have 100% control over it, and does it impact a major area of life? That's the second part of that. Picking up your dry cleaning, that doesn't move the needle anywhere. You can't take the easy layups like that, right? That's just a task. That's not moving the needle. So I'll choose a win that meets those two criteria, and that's what I declare needs to happen that day.
It reminds me, Amy, it reminds me of what we were talking about the other day, the circles of influence and control. And do you know that tool, Nick, where you have it looks like a target. So there's like a circle in the middle, which is like what you can actually control. Then the outer circle is what you can influence. And the center, what you can control, that's quite small, because
it's very little.
Yes. Yeah. But so I love that, because it forces if you combine sort of that thinking with your approach, it forces you to look for small things, because that circle is small.
Yeah. It is small. Yeah. And that also is like part of finding happiness or contentment or fulfillment or joyfulness or just a sense of peace. And thinking about it the way that you just explained, and using those variables as criteria as to like what goes into your wins for the day, you can let go of so much other stuff because you don't have control over it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, I don't know about you guys, but life's hard enough. I don't want to carry around the bag of bricks, the burden of feeling like I need to control everything, because I can't. And being able to let a lot of stuff go because I can't control it creates a lot of freedom.
Yeah. It's hard to do that. It's hard to do that. It takes practice. It takes a lot of practice.
It does. It does. Yeah. One of the things that I think make life harder for a lot of people, myself included, even though I'm becoming more mindful about it, is our entitlements, our interpretations, our judgments, our assumptions, even our unspoken expectations. We assign them all the time, and then we're pissed off, or we're mad, or we're upset because they're not met, or we're just carrying around these stories, and that makes it harder. When you can let all that go because you don't have control over it, or you start to learn that maybe I need to choose positive intent before assuming elsewise, right? Or empathize before I criticize, right? Like, these are all things that you can learn to do to let go some of that emotional baggage that make things harder. It just make things harder. It does more damage than any pandemic or any enemy that you have could ever do. Right here.
So true.
And we do it every single day. Like, signing interpretation to things is one of the biggest things I see people do that just destroys them. I see my daughters do it all the time. And I try to break that habit. I try to break that cycle. Assuming. Did you ask questions around it? Are you sure that's what they meant? I mean, we should seek clarity before we start assuming, but we don't.
It's so
true.
You
see it online all the time right now, right? It's very polarizing.
Yeah.
And then being open doesn't mean you're weak. It actually is the greatest sign of mental strength that I could think of. It means you're so strong mentally that you're willing to consider perspectives of others. That's courage.
Yes.
Big time. I just wrote a blog post about flexibility, of flexible thinking, and how it is how when we can think flexibly, then we can see other people's perspectives, and we can even think to ask those questions, and we can think, oh wait, I could live my life a different way. I could do things differently. It doesn't have to be like this. But when you are more of a rigid thinker, and that thinking flexibly is very effortful, then it is just harder. And then if you don't know that you could have a better way of living, a better life, a better experience, then
more connection. More connection when you can let go of your stories and be open to other perspectives.
Yeah.
I mean, mind wasn't meant to be hardened into one facet or one way of thinking. You know, your perspective is just your perspective. It's hardly ever the only perspective, and a lot of times not the right perspective.
And it's like what you were saying before in the very beginning, when you were talking about how you like to read a lot, and how when you read, you open up your mind and you see different perspectives. And they say one of the best ways to improve your brain health is to practice learning new things and seeing other people's perspectives, and how in doing that, you strengthen your brain and you increase the chance of living longer and living more independently. And
just with freedom, you let it go. I mean, I learned this through, I guess it was a seminar, a 3-day thing that I did years ago called the Landmark Forum. But one of the concepts there was there's two parts of life. There's fact, what actually happened, and then everything else after that is the story that we manifest. And it's not usually in the right way. And the other thing too with that is we turn things into a yes or no, true or false. And most things have multiple truths on both sides. And so we seek to go through life like an attorney, trying to prove our side right and the other side wrong, instead of being a scientist. And I think a lot of people would benefit from that reframe and treat life like a scientist. Treat issues like a scientist. Seek to understand instead of trying to lecture people about why you're right and they're wrong. How often does that actually even work?
Yeah. And that's such a great, it's such a great way to think about treating life, because scientists are not wrong. I mean, are not right every time. Like they are probably usually wrong, and then they try again, and they say, oh, okay, like, what do we do next?
I mean, the question they ask is it falsifiable?
Yeah.
And I think we could say that about a lot of the perspectives and interpretations and judgments that we have. Is there a chance this is false, or a portion of it's false? If so, what do I need to reconsider? I mean, if people would take time to do that with their own perspectives, I think they would open themselves up to others. And I think that's a beautiful way to communicate and go through life and connect with others. And at the same time, drop some of the baggage, drop some of the hard feelings you're carrying around.
Yeah, the ego.
Yeah, there's a really good book about this. It's called Think Again by Adam Grant.
There's another book that kind of the same idea, Thinking Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman. And there's System 1 thinking, which is the automatic thinking. It's effortless thinking. It's the biases, assumptions. If you're doing like what's 1 + 1, that's System 1 thinking. But it's also these like biases, quick judgments that we have. And then System 2 thinking is the effortful thinking. It's where we have to actually pause and say, wait, let me put some effort into this thinking and actually really think about it. Yeah. Think slowly about it. Yeah. My mom has taught me that lesson really early on. Like my mom has done some really beautiful work with her own sort of mental health journey, I guess you could say. And I remember she always would say, is that the truth, or is that a story that your brain has made up?
When I learned about stories and facts and truths, I would come home and I don't know, I was having some fun with it. Like with my wife specifically. Said something where like, you're being an asshole. And I'm like, am I being an asshole, or is that a story you're telling yourself? Shut up. I know you just learned that. Stop that.
Yeah.
If people can have the courage to consider what they're thinking is wrong, you let go of a lot. And letting go, I think, is one of the greatest forms of self-love, because I think a lot of the harm that we do to ourselves every day is right here.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. And, I just did a presentation last night at our public library on executive function skills for parents and teens. And one thing that I talked about was the things that we do a lot are the things that we get good at, whether they're helpful or not helpful. And so when we have, negative, harmful patterns of thinking, and we do them again and again and again, our brains learn to do them very well. And so then it is so much work. That's why this stuff is so hard, because not only do you have to remember the new way of thinking, but you have to, break all those old connections and let go of that. And it's so hard.
It's a great degree of humility, but if you want to have, you have to be. I mean, there's a equation in life that is, you can't cheat it. It's be, do, have.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but it's be, do, have. If you want to have different way of thinking, you need to become a different person in order to think differently, which is the do part of it. If you want more money, you can rob a bank and just have, but that's not sustainable, and you're probably going to get caught. Or you can become the person you need to become in order to do the disciplines and to have the habits that you need to do in order to make more money, establish a better income, and then you have the better income. It's be, do, have every time in anything that you want better in life.
I have this card that I got at Trader Joe's, actually, and I just loved it. So I just hung it up here, and it says, if you want something you never had, you have to do something you've never done, and which might be change how you think, change how you be.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, you have to commit to that's the thing. Committing to self-discovery and improvement is just a lifelong journey. You can always become better. When you do, it's a law of physics, so it's science. Like attracts like. That's even more validity to becoming in order to have.
Yeah, that's cool, because so I got connected with you through another executive function coach. So she and I just wanted to connect to talk about the experience of being an executive function coach. I mentioned the podcast about this topic.
Shout out Heidi.
And then shout out to Heidi. Yes, Heidi Shoemaker. Yep. And so you're right that when you open your mind to new ideas, then you never know the connections and the people you might meet. So
relationships is an easy one. And I'll just speak to kind of my own story with this, but, I've been married to my wife it'll be 20 years in October, but we've been together since 1999. I was 19 years old when I met her. She was 23. She robbed the cradle. What can I say? But like most relationships that have been together, like it doesn't stay in that honeymoon period all the time. It becomes work, and you add kids to it. You add, I was a builder until I learned to kind of change my perspective. So it was always go, 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 go. Like there's a lot of stress on relationships, and there was moments like there is for every single relationship, and I'm assuming everybody that'll listen to this can relate to it, where we were getting pressure tested, and there was a point in time where I was saying some things that like, hey, it would be better if you were more like this or did this more. Like, and it wasn't, it was in a productive way. Like I wasn't barking orders, and she was very receptive to it. Like, you're right. I would, like, God bless her for that. Right. And she would try to make some of those changes, but it wasn't sustained. And then one day I kind of realized, I don't know what the tipping point was I know I was getting frustrated that we were kind of always at a disconnect, and it was because I wasn't becoming. I wasn't also changing as well. I wasn't evolving. I was just saying it would be better, it would be cool if you were more like this, if you did this more. But then you got to evolve with it in order to attract that growth in your relationship. You have to become in order to do things differently so that you can have differently from the other person. And so for a lot of people, anybody that might be stuck in their relationships, look in the mirror. How are you evolving in that relationship?
Yeah, it's super validating to hear you say that, because somebody is actually at the same presentation, somebody asked me, like, how do I get my family to be better at these things? And I said, you can't force them. You have to do it for yourself. Do it for yourself first.
But it goes back to what I said, what the lead indicators are. What do you have 100% control over? The other person changing or you changing?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
It works.
Yes. So Nick, I know that you do a lot of mentoring professionally and personally as well. So can you just tell us a little bit about what that looks like for you, and what are maybe some common themes that you see where people need support?
I think what a lot of people think they need to fix is how they're competing externally instead of internally. And when you compete externally, you're comparing. When you compete internally, you're improving. Mm-hmm. And so I think tweaking what you're doing versus how you're comparing. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people are focused on winning and losing. And the most successful people that I know don't care about winning or losing. It's not a game to them. It's a continual process of improvement. And Simon Sinek, another book, everybody. Simon Sinek is maybe my favorite author of all time, and somebody I would love to meet in person. I've read all his books, but one specifically for this part of the conversation is Infinite Game. And I think in business or in life, a lot of people are playing a finite game. And you see it, I'm in real estate, so you see it a ton with real estate agents, investors, anybody in the real estate space. We're number one. We are number one in Q4 of 2025. Well, a finite game means there's rules that everybody knows. Everybody knows they're playing that said game. There's a defined beginning and end. It's a 9-inning baseball game, for instance. And there's a clear winner or loser. Team that has more runs wins. Business and life is not a win or lose game. It's an infinite game. An infinite game is just trying to kick the can down the road, trying to get better today than I was yesterday, trying to make more of an impact, a better impact, a positive impact today than I did yesterday. And so it's trying to shift that focus from how do I become the best? I'm not saying that's not a bad goal or the wrong goal. It's not right, wrong. It's a matter of trying to find happiness in the progress and not on becoming number one. You don't need number one to have a big living. And I guess that's part of it too, is defining your definition of success. What is success to you? I think a lot of people, when they think success, they think money, right? Or status in their profession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's just one aspect of life. What does the rest of it look like?
Yeah.
Because I know by that definition, I know a lot of successful people who are failing elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. And I also think about, in coaching, we talk a lot about the focus being progress, not perfection. So I think just across the board, that really does apply. And also thinking about, what does good enough look like? What does that progress look like for me personally? Just keeping all these things in mind, I think, is just really, really helpful. Thank you so much, Nick, for sharing that. I love hearing about that.
Sure. I think one of the other pieces with that is just because I started to touch on it, was defining what your success is. Because whether it's a mentor relationship or you want some level of accountability, like what are we shooting for here? What's the goal? What does success look like to you? And defining it, because it looks different for some people than others. I'll relate to my space because it's probably one of the things that annoys me the most, but there's this movement that if you're not doing a certain amount of transactions in real estate, then you're not successful. Mm-hmm. Says who?
That's too bad.
There's a lot of working mothers and fathers in my profession that are just wanting to contribute to their household income. If they do 12 transactions a year and they're making a positive impact in their family, you mean to tell me they're not successful? Bullshit. what I try to do is break that. Don't worry about what everybody else says success is. What's your definition of success for your family, for your lifestyle, for your goals, aspirations, your bandwidth, right? Everybody's ceiling's a little different. And then let's just focus on that and play our game, infinite game. What do you need to do today to be better than yesterday? And part of that success too is what does your health have to look like? What do your relationships have to look like? What does your personal finances have to look like? This is what my buddy Matt and I call the wheel of life. You know, all these different segments that comprise of your life. You're not just a real estate person. You're not just a personal development coach. Like that's just part of the overall person. So what does success look like for you as an overall person? Or do you want to just be the person that's successful at work but failing in all the other spots like we see all the time?
Yeah. So how does your mentoring work? Like who do you work with? Who do you support?
I don't say no. So anybody that asks, I will help them. I
love
will.
it. Yeah.
I will. So I help agents in our industry. I'll help anybody in any other businesses that small businesses around town.
That's cool.
Anywhere I can contribute. You know, but my mission, part of my mission statement, is to have a positive impact in our community. And so that is a pretty broad filter. But it's what I value. We talked about no's and subtraction. I'm usually looking to subtract something so I can make space because I want to make that positive impact. I'm not going to say no.
Your community is lucky to have you, Nick.
Yes.
I'm lucky to have them.
Absolutely.
I live in a great place. So.
Yeah.
It's great.
Every episode we end with what's real for us this week. And that is you get to choose something that has been hard lately, something that you're working towards, or something that's bringing you joy or that you're looking forward to. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Nick. You can go first.
Okay.
Pick one of those.
Okay. What's been really hard lately is I'm honored to be their dad, but I have two teenage daughters. My oldest, Avery, is 17, and my youngest, Delaney, is 13. And dang, I might cry. They are everything to me. They're my best friends. They make me smile every day. I've just appreciated being their dad. I'm so grateful to be their dad. But they're 17 and 13. So the season of life that we're in is very chaotic. One is a lacrosse player, a very good lacrosse player. She starts and plays for them.
Amazing.
And so she keeps a very busy schedule, has her license. She's a junior in high school and has junior in high school type social life. My youngest is more of a homebody, but plays spring basketball and does gymnastics and has also a very busy schedule and likes to be on FaceTime with her friends when she's home. And so what's been hard for me is adapting and evolving into this season. And any parent that is in the similar season can, I think, relate. It's not often talked about, this part of parenting. It's always talked about the sleepless nights and the chaotic practices and this and that. And I've loved all that. I've loved and embraced every bit of that. And it's different now. And I don't want to say I'm holding on to what was. It's just, it's lonelier.
Yeah,
it's lonelier. And it's been hard. It has been hard, and it's played on my emotions. And my algorithm, I think, finds me on Insta, and it puts some of this dad stuff in front of me, and I'm like, but I've it's been hard. It's been it's an evolution. We have a great relationship. I love the girls, and I love their activities. I love their social lives. I love our banter because we have a very fun sense of humor with one another and as a family. But it's different. You know, they're actual humans now. They're not like little kids. And I miss the hand holding where their little hand, it was like this. It's not like that anymore. So it's just adapting. For me, adapting to that part of parenthood I wasn't prepared for it. You know, I love being a young girl dad. Now it's, a teenage girl dad, and it's been a struggle at times, sometimes for me emotionally, just because I've loved it so much. So
all three of us have daughters who are juniors in high school.
Yes.
Who are 17.
So
high five.
Yeah. So I definitely think we can relate to that, Nick.
Some of the cool learning lessons and part of that evolution for anybody that's going through that as well, is I kind of have to meet them where they're at. And, that's been a cool learning experience too. And there's a really good book out there. Sorry, ladies, this is more for the girl dads out there, but it's one of the best books I ever read. And I had to go back to it because this was so under talked about. The book's called Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters by Meg Meeker. And she goes through being a girl dad through different stages of life with daughters because of girls that she's counseled, and including teenagers. And I had to go back to it because I read it early on, years and years ago, to remind myself that they will come back. Just keep showing up, keep meeting them where they're at, be their hero. And so just finding strength to always be there no matter what, even if they didn't want to talk to me. That's part of the hardest part is, they're teenage girls, sorry ladies, but you guys can get really emotional. Not trying to fix everything.
Yes.
Sometimes they just want to be heard. Sometimes you guys just want to be heard. You don't want us to fix everything.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
99%.
So I've had to learn that. What do you do? But as a dad with a little girl, you can fix everything. They want you to fix everything.
Yeah. And then,
but a teenage girl don't.
I know.
And so having to meet them where they're at and be that person has been quite the evolution. And I welcome it because it's a chance for growth for me, and to continue to progress and push our relationship forward. But it's hard to do as a dad that's loved being a dad and loved fixing things and loved being there for them. Sometimes I just got to shut my mouth and just be present, And I've learned that compassion doesn't mean you're solving other people's problems. It means that sometimes you're just willing to sit in the dark with them. And so I got to be that person.
I love it. Can I recommend another book for you? It's called The Breakthrough Years, and it's by Ellen Galinsky, who is like the OG of executive function skills and child development. And The Breakthrough Years. The Breakthrough Years. Yep. And so it's all about teenage and adolescent development through the lens of executive functioning. And the book is broken down into the 5 messages that most of the over 1,000 teenagers that she interviewed told her that they want parents and adults to learn about them. And so that's what she studied. And it's a long book, but it is such a good book, such a good read. I recommend it to.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's really good. All right. So Amy, what about you?
I'm going to choose something that's been bringing me joy lately. I had dinner with my good friend Chris last week, and she and I are very close, but we are both very busy people and don't always get to see each other as often as we'd like. So she suggested that we start doing these like little daily messages to each other through this like walkie-talkie app that we both have.
That's cool.
So it's really cool. So we each just leave each other just a really short message just every day, and our goal is just to basically bring attention to something that we've done during the day, like for ourselves, something that's felt good in terms of whether it's eating healthy or going for a walk or just, sharing those happy moments with each other. And it makes such a big difference doing that.
That's really cool. Yeah. I love that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's been
That's
great.
really neat. Oh, nice.
It's been a good one. Yeah, because I feel
you
like
said like walkie-talkie app?
It's called Voxer. VOX.
That could get dangerous with my friends.
So but just as a heads up though, it works like a walkie-talkie. So you push the button and you record your audio, and it immediately sends to the other person. So there's no
editing.
Right? Hannah, what about you? What's
well, it's funny. So for me, it's something that I'm like in the middle of something I've been working towards, and now I'm in the middle of doing it, and I'm looking forward to it. So I did a series of 4 presentations on executive functioning at our public library. So I did one for adults last week. I'm doing 2 this week. I did 2 this week, one for middle school, one for high school. And then on Tuesday, I get to talk with my my favorite group, which is college students and their parents, college-bound students, I should say. And so I've been working really hard on those decks and the content, and it just has been so fun. And I actually collaborated with another local executive function coach for the middle school and the high school one. And yeah, so I love it. I love public speaking. I love it. It's so much fun for me, and I love creating decks and all that. And so it's you were saying most people are a natural introvert. I am like when I did the MBTI. When I did the MBTI, I was like over 80% extroverted.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I would love to do that one day. That's kind
You would be good, man. You'd be so good.
I appreciate it.
We should do something together. That would be really fun.
If an extrovert could probably pull me out of my shell, so I might need you to actually do that.
To say.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's kind of it's one thing that I would like to do more of, is doing stuff like that to have more of a positive impact. Cast a wider net. The last step of mastery is teaching.
Yes.
In anything. Yes. So being able to teach it, allows you to do all the things necessary to master it. So
yeah, it's true. And it really helps me so much. And sometimes, like when I'm talking about what I'm doing, I'll kind of come up with something on the spot. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, dang, that was a good idea. You should actually try that. You should try that yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do learn a lot by teaching other people. Oh.
Yeah, Nick, thank you. This was wonderful.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you guys.
That was so
Amy,
amazing. Yes.
It was so hard for me when he was talking about his mom.
Yes.
I was like, I wanted to, I thought, I was worried I was going to start sobbing.
Yeah.
Uncontrollably sobbing.
Yeah, that was, I so appreciate him sharing all of that. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. So,
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heidi Shoemaker, man.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What were your main, I know we literally just recorded, but what were your main takeaways?
My goodness, to wrap my head around it. Hannah, it really hit home for me when he was speaking about his mom, because just having, experienced grief myself, it really does, I think, kind of drive you to think about every moment, the moments that you have, and that just really hit home for me, just hearing him talk about that. So yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me is that as well, of course, and also this idea of being a lifelong learner, and how there's the learning, and then are you going to apply it, and how are you going to modify it and make it fit, take what you need from it, and then benefit from it. And then, like he said, that was saying at the end, teach others, because then we learn it better ourselves, and then we spread, we help other people through our own experiences, and that vulnerability and sharing all that is just that really was, that message for me came through really strongly, and it's one that I really feel deeply myself. I mean, you too, right? We're doing this podcast, right? And we are coaches. Right. We kind of live that life regardless. So it was very validating for me to hear that from someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like everything he talked about, I mean, it applies, I think, to every aspect of our lives, professionally, personally, with our relationships, so I just, so validating to hear all of that from him.
And what I kept thinking, and I thought about it in some of the other conversations that we have, is I keep finding myself wanting to say, oh, so-and-so said that, and so-and-so said that, and this other person. And so I hope that the repetition of these messages, that listeners, instead of saying, oh, somebody else already said that, they say, wow, wait, lots of people are saying this. This is something I need to listen to and maybe, put into my own life. So and it's just so beautiful, this common, that the human experience is so shared, but we don't always talk about it, and we don't talk about it enough, and also in a way that other people get to hear. And so I'm so grateful that we're doing this podcast, Amy. Thank you. Thank you for doing this with me.
Absolutely. Thank you. I feel like I learned so much through every conversation that we've had on here. So I'm very grateful. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, everybody. If you want to check out any of the resources that Nick talked about, you can find them in the show notes.
And just a reminder that this podcast is not a substitute for professional mental health support. So please take care of yourself and reach out to a qualified licensed provider for help. And please reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. And for now, you can email us at hello@icanbehappier.com. And you can visit our website at icanbehappier.com. All right. Thanks, everybody. And don't forget, please rate us. Please give us a 5-star rating.
Yes.
Was it 5 stars or 4?
5. No. I mean 4. We'll take 4, but please give us 5.
My brain's the max. Okay. 5 stars would be great, everyone. Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.